should not release or talk about anybody's personal details, because that may be an invasion of their privacy. So do please remember that when we open to questions and debate. So we have apologies at the moment from Leslie Fage and from Kevin Brown, who may be late. We've got the minutes of the meeting of 2019, because we did not have an annual assembly last year. You may remember that the pandemic had just started, and in all the confusion about moving to virtual meetings, we didn't actually have an assembly. So we've got the minutes of the town annual assembly from 2019. Are there any issues with the minutes, or are we able to adopt them? All those in favour of adopting the minutes, please. Thank you. Okay. Are there any matters arising from those minutes that anybody wishes to bring up? And at the moment, I can see one attendee, who is Ewan Duncan, who I think is from the Chronicle, but no other attendees at the moment. So I'm assuming there's no matters arising. So we'll go on to my report, I'm afraid. So here goes. It is a privilege to serve as the Mayor of Biggleswade, and I was delighted to be appointed last May for a second term, although this has been a year of challenges for the Town Council. The COVID pandemic had arrived, and both councillors and officers were having to adapt to new ways of working. More importantly, we had to ensure that the services we offered to the town were COVID compliant and as normal as possible in the circumstances. In addition, staff were assisting both Central Bedfordshire Council and local voluntary groups to support the more vulnerable people in our town. Over the year, as the rules of lockdown and tiers changed, so the way the Town Council worked and what services could be offered had to change. For councillors, the biggest change was to move to virtual meetings, which are then live streamed to YouTube. This allows the business of the council to continue to be transacted and has the advantage of making it easier for members of the public to understand the Town Council's work and speak to the council on issues of importance to them. The disadvantages are those that are becoming generally more apparent about remote working, and which get worse over time when you don't interact informally with colleagues. It's harder to get to know each other better and to maintain that team spirit. And as colleagues who chair committees will also have found, it takes a good deal of concentration and good eyesight to watch up to 20 little boxes on the screen and conduct the meeting appropriately. None of this has stopped the Town Council achieving a great deal in the last year. We began the year without a town clerk, but we're very pleased to appoint Peter Tarrant, who joined the council at the end of August. Peter's whole career has been in local government, with experience of local governance at all levels. He's bringing fresh ideas and energy to the council and will help the council to become more effective and better able to provide all the services which our growing town needs. Two important changes have already been achieved. The council has just launched its new website, which is more accessible and makes it much easier to find information. The council's community engagement group will monitor it and ensure we deal with any glitches. Staff have received training to keep the website up to date, and over time we hope to add more historical information. And also the contract has been signed for the leasing of a unit in Eldon Way as a new depot for the Public Realm team. As the town grows, there's more public space to look after and more equipment needed, which has to be properly stored. It's hoped that the team will move into their new home in the next couple of months. The council has responsibility for an important heritage asset in the town, the Grade 2 listed chapel in the Drove Road Cemetery. Investigatory work has been completed, and it's hoped that repair work and damp eradication can be carried out in the coming year. The charter market was reduced to only food stalls for a large part of the year, but to coincide with the return of other types of stalls, the market has been refreshed with new stalls, buskers and its own branding. With this and the bench refurbishment currently taking place, combined with more outdoor seating from cafes around the market square, the town centre will certainly be buzzing on Saturdays. More visitors will help all our local businesses to recover from the pandemic, and we've been encouraging this with our Buy Biggleswade campaign. As well as being involved with the overall business of the council as a member of all its committees, I've continued to chair the Neighbourhood Plan Strategy Group. This group was first formed in June 2018, when council resolved to produce a neighbourhood plan for the town, and the group includes representatives of the community as well as 4 town councillors. Since then, council has agreed the vision for the plan and the areas to be covered by the plan, and there have been 2 engagements with the public. The first was in the spring of 2019, with drop-in sessions at the Town Hall and the Orchard Centre and an online questionnaire. The second has just closed and was a SurveyMonkey online survey, because of the pandemic, run for us by Bedfordshire Rural Communities Charity. We are delighted at the number of responses received, the final total being 560. The next step is to produce a first draft of the plan, including the feedback from those 2 engagements. Alongside this work, BRCC have also conducted a review of the Biggleswade Green Infrastructure Plan, which was first produced in 2010 and led to the creation of the Green Wheel. In various public engagement opportunities, residents were asked how they would like to see the Green Infrastructure Plan developed, and also which local green spaces they most valued. BRCC have now produced a final draft of the plan, which has just been approved by the Town Council. BRCC have also taken the results of the most valued local green spaces, analysed them against the government criteria, and they recommend 15 to be designated in the neighbourhood plan as local green spaces. This would give them protection from development. The Town Council has approved that list of 15 to be taken forward within the neighbourhood plan. There is a statutory process to go through to produce a neighbourhood plan, and that's due to start in the late summer or early autumn with a formal 6-week consultation. The draft plan will then be reviewed in the light of the consultation responses before being submitted to Central Bedfordshire Council as the local planning authority. They will then take the plan through the rest of the formal process, which will involve a further 6-week consultation, an examination by a planning inspector, and finally a referendum, which we hope will take place in May 2022. All of those on the electoral roll in Biggleswade will be entitled to vote in the referendum, and for the plan to become supplementary planning guidance, there needs to be a majority in favour, 50% plus 1 of those who vote. If the plan is approved and becomes supplementary planning guidance, it will be taken into consideration by the planning authority when they consider all planning applications for Biggleswade. So the neighbourhood plan is a chance for Biggleswade to have more of a say in the way our town develops. The part of the mayoral role which has been sadly lacking this year is attendance at civic events. Very little has happened due to the pandemic. In a normal year, the mayor would attend up to 10 civic services across the county and various fundraising events, such as a Beating the Retreat or a lecture followed by a curry lunch, both supporting the Bedfordshire section of ABF, the Soldiers' Charity. These civic events are a great opportunity to network, to raise Biggleswade's profile, to find out what's going on and to learn from others. 2020 marked 20 years of twinning between Biggleswade and Erlensee, near Frankfurt in Germany. A party from Erlensee was due to visit us, but again it had to be cancelled. Instead, there was a Zoom party on Saturday, the 22nd of August. Herr Stefan Erb, the mayor of Erlensee, attended, and I was invited to say a few words on behalf of the town council, which I was delighted to do, having visited Erlensee 3 times over the years. It's noticeable how good our German friends' English is, so I determined to finish with a few words in German. Ich hoffe aufrichtig, dass die Freundschaft zwischen unseren Städten noch mindestens weitere 20 Jahre dauern wird und dass viele von uns dann anwesend sein werden und dies zu feiern. I sincerely hope that the friendship between our towns will continue for at least another 20 years and that many of us will still be around to celebrate. Biggleswade would have had its civic service on the 7th of March at St Andrew's Church, but it had to be cancelled. It would have been an opportunity to recognise and celebrate the work of so many volunteers who do so much within our community. It would have been particularly appropriate to be able to recognise all the work to support our vulnerable residents during the pandemic. I would, however, like to take this opportunity to give my and the council's thanks to all those people who do so much for Biggleswade in so many different ways, whether personally or running community groups and initiatives. They make Biggleswade such a good place to live. The only service that I did attend was on the 16th of April. There was an invitation from the Lord Lieutenant to represent Biggleswade at the County of Bedfordshire Service of Thanksgiving for His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. The service took place at St Paul's Church, Bedford, in the presence of the Lord Lieutenant, Mrs Helen Nellis, and the High Sheriff, Mr Eric Massey. The Lord Lieutenant spoke about the Duke, his visits to Bedfordshire, and his key charities. The preacher was the Bishop of Bedford, the Right Reverend Richard Atkinson, and there was wonderful music from a small section of the St Paul's Choir. The occasion, on the eve of the Duke's funeral, was both solemn and moving. Finally, I would like to say a huge thank you to colleagues, both councillors and staff, who have worked so hard in the last 12 months to keep the show on the road and to ensure that the council made progress. Everyone has had to be flexible in so many ways to allow the council to achieve what it has. We all look forward to settling down into a more normal routine, but still working hard to achieve our vision for Biggleswade, as articulated in the neighbourhood plan. Biggleswade should be a thriving, large market town with individual shops, services and leisure offer in the town centre, retail and business parks to the south of the town, and plenty of green spaces to enjoy the open air. And let's hope we can achieve that in the next few years. Thank you very much. I'm still only seeing one attendee. I don't know whether Ewan has any questions on my report, but I will take any questions after each report. So Ewan, if you want to raise your electronic hand as and when you want to ask a question, we'll be pleased to take it. It's nothing coming up. Okay, so I'm now moving on to the reports of the individual committees, and the first one is Councillor Frank Foster for Public Land and Open Spaces. Over to you, Frank, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yesterday, I had an operation to remove a cataract from my left eye. This being the case, I'm temporarily not in a position to read long documents. Our town clerk has kindly offered to read the Public Land and Open Spaces Chairman's report on my behalf. After he has done so, I'll be happy to answer any questions which may arise. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you. Following a period during the early days of the pandemic when the working regulations were being developed, it was decided that the staff would work half of their normal hours on a rota system. This changed almost a year ago when full-time working again commenced. During this very challenging year, the Public Realm team have shown flexibility and have worked hard under very difficult conditions. They have continued to maintain our outdoor spaces to a high standard. There have been a number of changes to our Public Realm team, which, together with the operational difficulties caused by the pandemic, has meant that the number of projects we hope to complete is fewer than planned. The Council is recruiting further staff members and strengthening the management team to enable projects which have been on hold to be progressed. In August, during a break in the pandemic lockdowns, the PLOS committee, together with the then Public Realm manager, Bob Catchpole, and the incoming town clerk and chief exec, Peter Tarrant, attended 2 targeted walkabout inspections of some of the town's public realm sites. This enabled us to see what progress had been made and also to put together a wish list of projects. Unfortunately, the continuing COVID crisis and the accompanying disruption has meant that some of the areas highlighted remain on the to-do list. Part of the walkabout report of the 8th of August 2020, as it relates to Stratton Way Cemetery, has been included as an appendix at the end of this report. Most of what was reported then remains relevant now and will be progressed as appropriate through the coming year. Flower beds. We have reviewed the suppliers of plants to the council and also the range of plants to be used. The planting of our flower beds will soon be underway, and we look forward to colourful displays throughout the summer and the early autumn. Planters. The various planters, particularly those at the north and south entrances of the town, have been refurbished, and the programme to update those at other sites will continue during this year. Hanging baskets. Our hanging baskets are being assembled to our specification by a new supplier this year and will be put in place by the public realm team shortly, and they will be maintained by them throughout the season. Allotments. Access problems. The development of the Taylor Wimpey site on Saxon Drive has caused considerable access problems to our allotments. Council staff have been in regular contact with the builders to try to resolve the access difficulties as they arose. Taylor Wimpey have agreed to repair the damage to the allotments track caused by their vehicles, and the Town Council will keep the condition of the track constantly under review and maintain it as necessary. Signage. It is planned to have better signage to the allotment site itself and a plot map/plan to enable easier plot location. Areas for recycling, composting and waste materials. Our future plans include dedicated areas for recycling, composting and waste. Buttercup Mead. The dilapidated fence between Buttercup Mead and the new Sorrel Gardens development off Sorrel Way has been replaced by the public realm team, and the small, rarely used and outdated play area is now under review. Play and recreation areas. The required safety inspections and basic maintenance schedule for play equipment has continued throughout the pandemic. The facilities have been open to the public when the pandemic rules have allowed this, and temporary signage to inform the public of the current rules has been put in place as the situation changed. Grass cutting and chemical weeding to control unsightly lichen and weed growth has continued. A comprehensive review of all play and recreation sites is currently being undertaken, and a report to council will be presented shortly. Tree survey. A comprehensive survey of all trees that are the responsibility of the town council has now been undertaken. The survey is the initial stage of what will be regular inspections of our trees to keep them healthy, well maintained and safe. Saxon Gate Pocket Park and Biggleswade Linear Wood. Central Bedfordshire Council owns both the Saxon Gate Pocket Park and Biggleswade Linear Wood and currently maintains them both. Biggleswade Town Council has been in discussion with CBC with a view to taking on the maintenance of these areas subject to a terms agreement and the payment of an appropriate maintenance fee. Also, negotiations relating to the possibility of BTC taking over the complete management of both sites on a 25-year lease agreement are currently underway. The new public realm depot. An ongoing problem for the council has been the lack of facilities for our public realm team and suitable storage space for the equipment they use. During this year, following a detailed search, our officers found ideal premises in Eldon Way, Biggleswade. In addition to a staff room with catering facilities and toilets, together with more enough space to house the grass cutting and other essential equipment, there will be an enclosed workshop to enable in-house repairs and the maintenance of equipment, fencing and planters, etc. as required. The council obtained the keys to these premises on Friday the 23rd of April 2021. Public realm equipment. During late summer 2020, a comprehensive review of the equipment used by the public realm team was undertaken and a report was made to council. The review concluded that it was essential that a substantial amount of new equipment was needed to enable our staff to work safely and more efficiently. The council approved the expenditure and the equipment was purchased for delivery as and when new public realm depot became available. Delivery of this new equipment is therefore now imminent. Drove Road Cemetery. Specialist repairs and maintenance at Drove Road. The boundary walls and the two chapels within the Grade 2 listed Drove Road Cemetery, which dates back to the mid-1800s, require some immediate repairs and other ongoing specialist maintenance. Some of the previous repair work has not been up to the required standard. The council has now engaged Hawkins Historic Limited, who are specialists in listed building repair. Mr. Brian Hawkins from this company has put together specifications for various projects to go out to tender to cover both the immediately necessary repairs and future required repairs and maintenance. Mr. Hawkins will project manage the works as they proceed. The Town Council meeting of the Tuesday the 27th of April 2021, attended by Mr. Hawkins, included further discussions on the Drove Road Cemetery situation, and a clear roadmap for progressing this important matter will be put to council in the near future. Public realm team maintenance at Drove Road. The regular maintenance by the public realm team has been stepped up, and the team has taken on the responsibility of maintaining any unkempt graves so that the overall appearance of the cemetery can be improved. This action will be undertaken only after every effort has been made to contact the deceased's family. Action has also been taken to fence off an area which has been reported as being used for drug-related activity. Intrusive buddleia growth embedded in the chapel steeple has been removed. Tree works. All trees within the cemetery have been inspected by a tree specialist with a view of putting together a programme of maintenance to cover the safety and health of the trees at the right time of the year. Some trees can be saved by the use of props to avoid them being felled. To aid vehicle access, our team are cutting back branches overhanging the driveway to the chapels. A large, unsightly tree stump close to the main entrance, remaining after the removal of a deceased tree, is to be removed as part of the programme. The Drove Road Chapels. Because of the lack of storage and workshop space, the two chapels have been utilised for those purposes by the public realm team. This situation will now change with the advent of our new Eldon Way depot. The Consecrated Chapel on the right-hand side when entering from Drove Road will be emptied of any stored items and will be returned as far as possible to its original condition so it can be used for religious ceremonies as required. The unconsecrated chapel on the left will be completely cleared and refurbished. Current plans are that this chapel could be let as a suitable business.
Thank you very much, Peter Tarrant, for that. And thank you, Frank, for a very comprehensive report. Are there any questions that anybody wishes to ask on the Public Land and Open Spaces report? I'm not getting any indication. So I'm going to move on now to the Town Centre Management Report. Councillor Grant Fage, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's a great pleasure to read out the Chairman's Annual Assembly Report for Town Centre Management Committee 2020-21. So the last 12 months have been unprecedented for town centres across the country. Sadly and unsurprisingly, Biggleswade has not been exempt from the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. Our bars, pubs, cafes, restaurants, hairdressers and beauty salons have all been forced to close, and many of our smaller independent traders have struggled to open due to the lack of space for social distancing. As restrictions are easing, unfortunately, the likelihood is that a small number of businesses will not trade again. On behalf of the council, our thoughts are with every employee, business owner and landlord who have struggled through the last year. We're sorry for the uncertainty and insecurity that all businesses have had to face, but the Town Centre Management Committee is determined to do everything we can to tap into pent-up demand and get people spending in town again. As we emerge from a year of lockdowns, there are now signs of hope, and this committee has a very important role to play in securing the recovery. In the last year, our councillors have adopted a proactive approach to filling empty shop units, helping no fewer than 5 new businesses to find the right premises, navigate the planning process and get themselves established. This new mentality of approaching potential investors in our town is something that is only going to gather pace as the economy picks up, and I'm determined to keep working at this. Our town council has also revised parking orders, now allowing for 2 hours free in most of our car parks and no charges at all on weekends. We have new parking signage, which is clearer, simpler and more professional. The task ahead is to publicise the free parking better and to finally sort out directional signage to help visitors find our car parks. Last summer, the Town Council's Buy Biggleswade campaign launched. It's been a reminder to residents to back local businesses through the difficult period and to do their bit in helping our town centre. At Christmas time, in place of the annual switch-on event, the committee worked to introduce a new light show to act as a constant draw into the town centre throughout the Christmas period. This was very well received by residents and businesses alike, and I very much hope that we can continue to do this in future years. The Town Council has also taken unprecedented steps to reform our market offer. We've partnered with the team from Made in the Way to rebrand the market, to source new traders and to professionalise the whole operation. We're only part of the way through that journey, but in the coming months it will make the market a draw once again, bringing footfall into the town from Biggleswade and beyond. This year, we've pushed Central Beds Council to finally complete the decluttering. Our town centre looks much more inviting as a result. This is complemented by the bench refurbishment programme. These have been very well received by residents and are often full of people out enjoying the sunshine. Our hanging baskets will soon be back up, looking bigger and brighter than ever before, and our planters on Hitchin Street have been refurbished as well. I'd like to thank Councillor Frank Foster and the Public Realm team for their partnership throughout the year. Progress has been made on the provision of CCTV, however, there's a lot more to do in upgrading our cameras and improving coverage. There were a number of break-ins over the New Year period, and sadly this is nothing new. Our council has a crucial role to play in ensuring that the quality of CCTV images makes securing solid evidence as easy as possible. Next year, the committee will need to look closely at our town centre events offering, putting the budget to good use carefully and strategically. The committee should also look to accelerate conversations with Central Bedfordshire Council with the aim of knocking down Century House in the next 2 years and prudently planning how the £800,000 Section 106 monies are deployed. In my first and only year as chairman, we have made good progress, but there is a great deal more to do. I'd like to thank my Deputy Chairman, Councillor Mark Knight, without whom progress this year would have been but a fraction of what we actually managed to get up off the ground. My thanks as well to the Town Council staff for their continued commitment to helping TCM carry out its agenda. We have been a strong team this year, and I look forward to another 12 months of supporting the transformation that our town centre needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fage. Are there any questions for Councillor Fage on his report? No. So I'm moving on to finance and general purposes, and Councillor Ramsey, please, will you give your report?
Yes, Chair. I'm pleased to report the following information on an overview of the Town Council's financial performance for the year. The end of year close down has not yet been finalised, so this report is not fully indicative of the final position this year. We aim to report on the most important parts of the finances, but it must be understood that more detailed information is available, which is subject to change when all the year-end entries have been completed. Summary results of the year. The Council is currently showing a surplus on the budget of £66,627 for the year. However, there has been Section 106 grants received in the year that are yet to be recoded to reserves and released back to income when the related expenditure is incurred. This may affect the surplus to the extent that these funds have not been spent as of the 31st of March 2021. You will see from the figures for this year that COVID has impacted on the income that had been budgeted for pre-COVID. Biggleswade Council has ensured that our staff and officers have a safe working environment and has purchased equipment to conform to government regulations. But the significant differences are as follows. The Orchard Centre has achieved an income of 4,276 compared with its budget of 50,250, and it has an expenditure of 77,517. Biggleswade market income was short of budget by 10,107. Council grants were awarded to various charities upon application, and the grants totalled 28,340 against the budget of 32,017 pence. Car park fees fell well short of the 53,000 budget by 42,842 and at 10,158, while expenditure was 84,047. The election budget of £4,000 is to be moved to the reserves for future election costs. Recreation grounds income was short of budget by 2,951 and standing at 6,289. In July 2021, BTC opened a CCLA Public Sector Deposit Fund account, making an initial transfer of £450,000. The aim was to increase the amount of interest that has received compared with the bank deposit rates. In the last 3 quarters of the financial year, the council received £666 from CCLA in an interest to date, compared with the outturn of the previous year of £593 for the full year. During the year, the council also undertook the following projects: purchase of IT equipment. Re-COVID, the admin needed to have special equipment that they could take home and use at home as well. So that's 3817. Purchase of vehicles and equipment for the public realm team was at 8443. A 2-ton tipping trailer stroke rotavator chipper, me neither, was disposed of, realising 1667. The depot was sourced locally, enabling public realm equipment to be stored safely and kept in workable condition. Previously, equipment had suffered from the outside storage from weather and damage. The depot includes staff amenities, workshop facilities for equipment maintenance. Biggleswade Town Council's finances remain in a good position with an anticipated 685,000 in bank and cash balances. It is too early to be specific about the balances on general and earmarked reserves, but it is anticipated, as predicted at budget setting, that the general reserve will still be below minimum target at the year end. Earmarked reserves, nevertheless, are more than adequate for the council's medium-term needs, and BTC has a strategy in place to restore the general reserve to its target level over the next 3 to 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ramsey. Are there any questions of Councillor Ramsey? No? Okay. I'm moving on to personnel, please, and Councillor Woodhead, your report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a fairly short report, so hopefully I can keep it brief. But before I start, I just wanted to also thank Councillor Colin Thomas as my deputy over the past year as well for his input and assistance on a number of matters that was neglected from the written report. But I just wanted to add that at this stage. Necessarily, obviously, with personnel matters, we some of it is confidential, but I wanted to give an overview really of where we'd gone with the council, and in particular with the recruitment of the new town clerk. So over the past year, the main personnel change really has been the appointment of a new town clerk and chief executive, which took over from the interim town clerk, Philip Truppin. After a thorough selection process involving the whole council, we were delighted to appoint Dr. Peter Tarrant as a town council's new town clerk in August 2020. We're delighted to have Peter on board with the town council, with his extensive experience of principal local authorities and also of the private sector. Since Peter's appointment, a transformation process has been underway on the council in order to aspire to become one of the best town councils in the country, and also so that we can take on additional services that may be devolved to the town council in the future. I think other of those things have been mentioned in previous reports around different locations around the town and different opportunities. This work is ongoing as we've been established, but it's already yielding results. For example, we've got the move to the new depot on Eldon Way for the public realm equipment. Additional savings are being made, and also the enhanced market offer as referred to by Councillor Grant Fage. Sadly, we've had a number of departures of some long-standing staff over the past year, and I think on behalf of the council, I wish them the very best of luck in their continuing careers in what they are doing in future. But also importantly, we've also welcomed new staff into the council, particularly around the public realm team, and also we will welcome their contribution, helping to keep the town to flourish as we go forward into the next year. And finally, like many organisations, the past year has seen Biggleswade Town Council staff working under constrained circumstances with the impacts of COVID-19 and in particular remote working. The town clerk and chief executive has led the vanguard, I think, on remote working on the council, which I think it's fair to say was probably a new departure for colleagues on the council. It's not something we'd really looked at before, so it was perhaps overdue, and I'm glad that we've now started to tackle that. But this is also has to balance the need clearly for an office presence to serve the needs of the public, and there are a number of things that the council does that still do require that public presence. So I also want to offer my thanks to all the town council staff for their commitment over that particular difficult time. I think things are getting better, but it's still things are a bit difficult. But I want to get on the record that there's a thank you from the council, and also that as we come out of the pandemic, the council can still continue to strive to offer the best possible customer service to the people of Biggleswade, and whatever flexible working that may take in the future. But that's kind of it from me, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Woodhead. Are there any questions for Councillor Woodhead? No. The next item on the agenda is resolution and questions. Since we don't have any members of the public to really put anything, I don't think there's anything to discuss in this item, and nor, unfortunately, for the open forum, unless the one attendee has any questions of us at this stage about anything to do with the council's work in the town. I'll give a moment in case there are any questions to come forward. Right, yes, Mr. Duncan does have a question. Can you bring him in, please? Hello. I think you're muted, Mr. Duncan. Can you unmute, please?
Yeah, that should be that better.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I just wanted, this may even have come up already at one of the meetings, but just what the replacement is for Century House, or what the idea is if it comes down. Councillor
Fage, would you like to answer that? About what we would do if Century House is pulled down?
Well, that's a good question. I think there are a lot of ifs included in that, and sort of whens with a question mark. But it's been the view of our councillors for quite some time that Century House is not the best use of space in our market square. There are some dependencies in terms of getting rid of it. We know we need some public toilets, for example, and we'd need to change where buses go, but some of those conversations are now starting at pace with central beds, which is a good thing. That they're coming sort of, you may have been on some of our meetings where we discussed the transport interchange, and we want to see a sort of joined up solution for Biggleswade that leads to buses not standing on our market square, which will be beneficial. In terms of what would replace it, these are very early days. We have a lot of Section 106 money for the town centre, which might form part of that. But one thing that I think many of us have been keen for, and particularly following a visit from Bill Grimsey, who's a sort of high street expert, is that something that we need to do is to integrate more greenery with our town centre, sort of soft seating spaces, bringing some more colour into the town centre as well. So were Century House to disappear, hopefully in the next few years, I think that would be something that we'd try to use that space for and to integrate in with our town centre. So early stages, watch this space, but we are making progress on this in a way that we haven't before. So I hope that there will be an update on Century House at some point in the next few months.
Thank you for that. And just the reference to Market Square, I'm sure I always call it Market Square, but by letter of the map, it's Marketplace. Does everyone refer to it in Biggleswade as Market Square, or am I best off always sticking to Marketplace when it comes up?
It's Market Square for us, Mr. Duncan. Peter Tarrant wants to come in. Was it in response to Mr. Duncan's question?
It was, if that's okay. Could I just add a little more detail to what Councillor Fage said? Only to say that we're working very closely and in partnership with our main strategic partner, CBC. CBC have commissioned an independent review of Century House by a private sector contractor, and that will come up with some potential options which the council will then consider and see which is the best fit for town council going forward. One of the more obvious options that's been discussed in the past has been whether or not the building lends itself to effectively leaving the roof in place and to take out the centre part of the building. Thus, there is a possibility of a kind of extended marketplace in the centre of town. However, all I wanted to say was, obviously, we look forward to seeing the independent report, and that will give us some guidance about what the potential commercial opportunities might be. Thank you.
I hope that's answered your questions, Mr. Duncan.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Is there anything else you wish to ask, since you're the only member of the public here?
I think that's probably covered it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your attendance. I think that brings us to the end, because without any other members of the public, the open forum for ward councillors and town councillors would mean we're talking to ourselves. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for the people who have done the reports. Thank you for Councillor Foster's double doing his bit. And good night, everybody. And we'll see you at the next council meeting.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.